Hi everyone, welcome to my poster. My name is Perline Demange and I will give you a glimpse into a work where we compare design for estimating parental indirect genetic effects using simulations. When looking at the effect of genes on one's outcome, it is important to realize that genetic variation doesn't only affect an individual's outcome directly, but also can affect it indirectly via the environment shaped by parental heritable traits. There has been a recent interest in estimating this parental indirect genetic effect, which is a measure of an environmentally mediated effect that indicates that the parental phenotype and environment have an effect on the child outcome above genetic bias. Different methods have been developed in the last years to isolate and estimate direct and indirect genetic effects using polygenic scores and genotype family data. And here we are looking at the most popular designs, which are comparing siblings, comparing adoptees and non-adoptees individual, and using parent-child trio data with non-transmitted polygenic scores. Because these three designs are based on different assumptions, they might be affected differently by different confounding biases, or whether there has not been formal comparison of this method yet. So that's what we wanted to do here. To look at this, we stimulated some of the main components and bias that might affect our estimations. First, parental indirect genetic effect can be seen to have two components: a prenatal effect with parental genes affecting the child before birth, and a postnatal effect. This might be important as adoptees' prenatal and postnatal environment is not provided by the same parents. Additionally, we inspect effects that we consider confounding biases. The first one is the presence of potential sibling indirect genetic effects due to the genetic of the siblings affecting the outcome of the child via the sibling phenotype. Then we consider assortative mating, which is the fact that parents are more similar to each other than expected by chance. And finally, we looked at population stratification, which is a bias due to systemic difference in allele frequencies and phenotype between subpopulations. To make simulation of the bias manageable, we also set some assumptions. We set all effects to be positive, siblings to be equally affecting each other's phenotype, and biological and adoptive parents to have the same strains of assortative mating and come from the same subpopulation. So to compare how these models react to these effects, we simulated genetic and phenotypic data, which include this component and bias, and we estimate the direct and indirect effect with the three designs. So we simulated 100 SNPs for 20,000 families, and we repeated the simulation 100 times, which is why you will now see box plots of the different estimates. So here I show you the indirect genetic effects estimated with the three designs, and the red line is the true postnatal parental indirect effect we simulate. So when we simulate the child outcome without indirect effects or with only parental indirect effects, we see that all three designs correctly estimate the true indirect effect. Then we simulate child outcome with an effect via the prenatal and the postnatal environment. And we can see that in this case, the adoption design only captures the postnatal indirect effect, while the sibling and the non-transmitted indirect effect include both prenatal and postnatal effects. Then if we simulate only sibling effects, so without parental effect, it seems that all designs are biased such that they measure parental indirect effect when there's actually none, and especially the sibling design is affected. And if we simulate both sibling and parental effect, you can see again that all models overestimate the parental effect, and especially the sibling design. If we simulate assortative mating without parental effect, the sibling and the non-transmitted designs are overestimating the indirect effect, while the adoption design is correctly indicating that there is no effect. But if we simulate both assortative mating and parental indirect effect, all the designs are biased and overestimate the indirect effects. But adoption is still less biased than the two other designs. And finally, for population stratification, you can see that both when parental indirect genetic effects are simulated or not, that the sibling and the non-transmitted designs overestimate the indirect effect, but not the adoption design. So to conclude, we found that which designs you are using really matters for the estimation of indirect genetic effects. And it might be useful to triangulate these designs as we now have a better idea of what might cause empirical difference between these, and we can use this information. We see that the sibling and non-transmitted polygenic score designs are being affected by assortative mating, population stratification, and sibling effects, especially for the sibling design, while the adoption design might give us a useful lower bound estimate of the indirect genetic effect, as it is less affected by this bias and doesn't capture prenatal indirect effects. So if you want to know more, please join me during poster section 1 or feel free to email me or contact me on Twitter. Thank you.